Hello and welcome to Yoga Basics. I'm Patty, and joining me today will be my friend and colleague Jessie, and we're going to talk about your spine. And we're going to talk about finding a comfortable seated position with a straight spine. So right now, if you can see, Jesse's back is slightly curved. And he does practice yoga, but he also lifts weights, and so he's got some nice, tight, strong muscles. So to take the curvature out of his back, we're going to add blankets. And he's pretty tight, so I'm going to bring up 3 blankets. We've got these 2 big wool blankets and then another printed blanket. Now, Jesse, scoot back a little bit. What you're going to find is that your femur bones are really heavy. They're 2 of the heaviest bones in the body. And pull your knees up for me. Sometimes when people sit, but go ahead and cross your legs. Sometimes when people sit, and this might be you, your knees are really high. Well, these femur bones are going to get heavy. And eventually you're going to try to curve your back down to help support the weight of the femur bones. So we're trying to bring the pelvis up high enough that your pelvis and your knees are fairly level. So allow your knees to drop to their natural position. So right here, we've got him lifted up on 3 different blankets. So it looks like he's about 5 inches off the floor. So from lifting up to that much, that you can see that this puts his knees and his pelvis at a nice parallel to the floor angle. So this is appropriate because what this enables Jesse to then do is to lift and extend and straighten up his spine. Yes, and this improves your breathing. So when we find ourselves, this is an easy sitting pose. It's called Sukhasana. And Jesse has crossed at the shins, and the crossing at the shins applies some leverage into the hips. So we consider this a gentle hip opening pose. It's also an easy pose to sit in to find the length in the spine. Jesse, go ahead and scoot forward again and come off the blankets. And what happens to his back is this rounding expression here. When the back rounds and the shoulders pull forward, we end up compressing the lungs and you can't get a full breath. And part of your yoga practice is practicing the extension of your spine and holding your spine in extension. So this is going to get tiring for him. His back is curved, he's compressing his lungs, his knees aren't necessarily as comfortable. So we bring him back up onto these blankets, and he scoots well back onto the blankets to give the upper thighs some support. And this enables him to then lift and extend the spine without nearly as much effort as if he was sitting straight to the floor. We rarely need to sit straight to the floor unless we're going into some other asanas. But for Sukhasana, or easy sitting posture, you sit up on some blankets because your feet are underneath your knees. So you at least want the blankets to be folded so that they're as tall or taller than your foot turned sideways. And that way, when the feet are underneath the knees, you've lifted the pelvis and the knees up to the same plane. So with this particular position for Jesse, he's got the extension of the spine. So let's talk about your breath for a moment. When you inhale, your rib cage expands, allowing space for breath to be brought into the body, air to be brought into the body. As the rib cage expands on the inhale, it's attached to these bones of the spine. That expansion of the ribs actually extends the spine up. So when you inhale, you get a little extra length out of the spine. So as you take that inhale, getting that extra length out of the spine, you want to hold the length that you got and then exhale, but maintain that length that the inhale gave you. So what we do in yoga, particularly when we're in a seated posture or we're beginning our practice, is we do diaphragmatic breathing. This is belly breathing. Now, we don't really breathe with the belly, but diaphragmatic breathing changes the position of the diaphragm so that it feels like we're filling the belly as we inhale. One way to make sure you're doing this correctly is to place your hands on your low belly. And in diaphragmatic breathing, you want to fill the belly into your palms on the inhale and feel that belly filling or seemingly filling. And then on the exhale, you want to draw your belly back to the spine. so many of us end up finding that we're reverse breathers, where we end up pulling it in on the inhale and releasing it on the exhale. I find when I teach yoga that about half my students are reverse breathers. So this is the way to train yourself for the appropriate breath, at least when we're in a comfortable seated posture. So you've got your hands on the low belly. As you inhale, you're filling the belly into your palms, allowing your breath to rise up the 3 major curves of your back. Maintain the length you get on the inhale, and allow that breath to then slide down those same 3 curves, drawing your belly back to your spine. Let's do one more of these. Inhaling, seemingly filling the belly, allowing the breath to rise up those 3 major curves, and then maintain the length as you allow your breath to slide back down, drawing the belly back to your spine. Excellent. And just a few deep breaths are good in the beginning, and then you want to rest and just observe your breath. So the inhale is a gift that we're given when we make space for it in our body. And then the exhale, you can think of it as a gift that we give back as we contract through the ribs, pressing that air back out of the body. When the air comes into the body because we've made space and the space is filled by air pulling into the lungs, a gaseous exchange is made in the lungs. We extrapolate the oxygen out, and the carbon dioxide that's our metabolic waste, or one of them, that has been collected by the bloodstream is waiting in the lungs for that gaseous exchange. So as we allow the breath to fill the body by using the muscles of respiration to expand through the chest, the air comes in, and within the lungs, these little alveoli sacs make the exchange of taking oxygen out of the air and putting our metabolic waste of carbon dioxide into the air, which we then release through the body on the water vapor of our breath. Inhale, bringing the air in, filling the chest. You want to feel the ribs expand. You even want to feel your sternum lift and open as you get to the inhale. Then the exhale, the ribs contract, and you encourage this process by pulling the belly muscles back to facilitate the thoroughness of that exhale. Most excellent. How do you feel? You feel good? Good. Now, Jesse and I are going to move from this breathing posture into a hands and knees posture. And we're going to be working on hands and knees for a little while. So we're going to cushion his knees with some of these blankets he was sitting on. So these are a little softer, Jesse, so let's use these. I always encourage you to cushion any part of the body that's uncomfortable, because mostly we're trying to find the breath and the spine. And so we don't want sore knees to take us out of the posture or to limit our ability in the posture. So we've cushioned his knees. His knees are hip width apart. Now his hands are shoulder width apart. So we're going to do a version of a pose called cat-cow. The version we're going to do is cat, where you arch your back like a cat, tucking your chin into your chest. And then the other part of this pose, we're going to do a flat back cow. So rather than dropping low through the belly, which can be a little bit injurious to the low back, we'll arch like a cat. Good. And then through the inhale, Jesse's going to come down and work his way into a flat back. And then, staying here for a moment, Jesse, we're going to add another piece to this posture by having Jesse open at his shoulders. So pulling his shoulders away from each other. And then I like him to look up and take a little stretch through the chin. So here is the flat back cow position. He's going to finish an inhale. Then the exhale is going to move him back into the cat position. So as he exhales, he pulls the belly to the spine, arches his back like a cat, tucking the chin to the chest. Now stay here for just a moment, Jesse. As he's in this position, those 3 major curves of the back are now opening on this posterior part of the spine, and they're squeezing closed on the front or the anterior part of the spine. So he's getting an excellent stretch through his shoulders, as well as stretching through all the bones of his back. Now he's going to inhale his way into flat back cow. Rather than dropping the belly, he's coming into this flat back to keep it safe in the back. And then he'll add the shoulders pulling apart. It's a little Cobra action there, which is another posture. A little stretch through the chin so he can stretch the platysma muscle on the front of the neck. This will finish the inhale in this position. And then the exhale will arch him up like a cat. Fantastic. So cat is the exhale, and then the inhale moves you into a flat back cow or little mini cobra position. Good job. Now, from here, we're going to go ahead and move into a little modified yogi push-up. But instead of pushing up from the floor, we're going to have Jesse slowly going down to the floor. Now, there's certain things to remember in this posture. To remember is you want to tuck the elbows into the body. This enables us to find triceps instead of biceps. So the triceps are here underneath the arm. So a regular push-up, show what a regular push-up looks like in the arms and go just a little bit down. His elbows come way out to the side. And this is chest and bicep here. So this is not what we're going to do. In our push-up, his elbows are going to come in to the side of his body. Yes. So press back up. This is actually a very challenging position to do, and you can do it in tiny little increments, but eventually it will strengthen the triceps beautifully, and you'll have this wonderful ease through the body. So to access triceps, I'm going to have Jesse pick up his feet. Another reason why we've cushioned the knees. Then he's going to look up, and he's going to pull the shoulders apart a little bit. Are you breathing good? Now he's going to bend his elbows in towards his body and come down just a little bit. Now with this posture, we want to make sure that his ears, his shoulders, his hips, and his knees are all in the same kind of line. It's challenging posture here, so we're going to do it little pieces at a time. Shift your body weight forward, pick your knees up. Now look up, Jesse, look up. Tuck the elbows a little bit more. So I'll get out of the way. Can you see this line? Fill into my hand. Pull your belly in. That's it. You don't want to hang in the belly. It's injurious to the low back. You getting a good workout? Tiny little movements, and he really is using a lot of power to hold his body here. So this time, Jesse, I want you to come down even further. So coming forward, bending the elbow, go all the way down. Tuck those elbows into your body, all the way to your belly. Excellent, excellent. Now, press yourself back up. Jesse made that look really easy. A lot of times what happens, and for just a moment, let's show him the wrong way. Your spine acts like a snake. This is no good. You don't want the spine to act like a snake. In this case, we're trying to strengthen the muscles of the back by holding the spine stationary as we let the arms and the belly lift us up and down. So just for a moment, show what it looks like when you go the wrong way. So drop your belly, let your elbows come out, and kind of snake your way down. You don't want it to look like that. Press back up. And again, he made that look really easy. A lot of times, the press back up ends up looking like a snake too. So your goal is to have your ears, your shoulders, your hips, and sort of the knees on the same plane as you go down to your belly. Excellent. One more time, press back up. Good. We have time for one more posture, and we'll go ahead and do a posture on the belly. With this one, it's Bhujangasana Cobra. We won't need the blankets under the knees, but you might need them under your hips. So let's bring one blanket forward for the hip bones, and let your hips rest on that and your belly towards the front of the mat. You come all the way down to the mat. Feel free to put your hands forward for just a moment. Now, to orient the pelvis to work on the belly, we want to let's pick up the left leg, and pick the whole leg up straight and turn your toes in, and then lay that leg down. Then pick up the right leg, the whole leg, turn the toes in, and then lay those toes back down. So with Cobra, it's a belly posture, so we want to make sure the pelvis is oriented for working on the belly. Now Jesse is going to reach his toes away from his body to get a little length through the feet. A little more, good. And then he's going to try to bring the inner edges of his feet towards each other. Yep, good, good, good. Not everybody's going to have the room in the body to get the whole feet, both sides, inner edges of the feet together, but you do want to aim that way. So you're trying to get the inner edges of the feet together, the big toes together, and the whole thing to be sitting on the mat. So the toes reach away from the body, down towards the mat. The inner edges of the feet come together. To protect the low back in this posture, Jesse is going to clench through his buttocks, squeezing the buttocks so that the muscle fibers on the outside of the pelvis are pressing the pelvis down into the floor. This is one of the reasons why we have the blanket here underneath Jesse, so that it's not so uncomfortable. Now, bringing your hands back underneath your shoulders so that you have a hand underneath each shoulder, tucking the elbows in as much as your body will allow. We're going to keep the feet together and pressing onto the mat. We're going to keep the pelvis squeezing so that the muscle fibers on the back of the pelvis are pressing down. We're still going to do the diaphragmatic breathing, and now the movement of the belly as it fills in between the pressure of the floor and the pressure of the pelvic muscles, and then the movement of the belly as it empties, seemingly, drawing back to the spine, creating a nice internal pressure, is a cleansing action for the organs of digestion. We're going to allow the belly to stay pressing down into the mat, and I'm going to ask Jesse to just pick his front ribs up. So slowly lift just the front ribs up. The toes are reaching back, trying to stay on the mat. The pelvis is squeezing to press the lower part of the body down into the floor, and he's slowly trying to lift just the front ribs up so that he can keep the belly pressing into the floor while he breathes. A little tuck to the chin so that he gets long in the neck, and we're in Bhujangasana, Cobra. This pose is particularly beneficial for the pancreas, for the production and regulation of insulin in our body, as well as releasing stagnant fluid and energy through the digestive tract. How are you doing? Good? Let's try and twist this Cobra. So Jesse, if you'll look over your left shoulder, inhale here, and as you exhale, try to look up and over your shoulder and try to see the back of your left foot. Up, 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 while still keeping the belly pressing into the mat. And then you can bring yourself back forward. And of course, you'll want to do the other side. So look over your right shoulder, inhale. And as you exhale, twist up and around, attempting to see your right foot from over your shoulder while your belly still presses down into the mat. And then bring yourself back forward. This is a lot of work in the low back, so we're going to have a release pose, which will be child's pose. So Jesse, if you'll press yourself up, and then he's going to press back, bringing his hips towards his heels and his forehead towards the floor. Now, as you can see, Jesse's got some nice tight hips. His backside is pretty high in the air, which sends that spine downward and the head downward. Not quite as comfortable a position as it could be. So I'm going to support Jesse in a supported child's pose. So with this, press yourself up, Jesse. We're going to take our blankets and make a nice long support that hopefully we can get Jesse's belly and forehead to rest on. So in this, he'll do a wide-legged child's pose so that his toes will be together in the back, but his knees will be apart in the front. We're going to take this blanket stack and slide it right in between the knees, and now let Jesse come forward so the hips go back towards your heels. Press your hips back, and you just want the blanket stack to be on the belly, not on the lower part of the belly, but right in the higher part of the belly, so that the soft round part of your belly can hang on the back of that blanket stack, and you're just supporting the upper part of the belly. And go ahead and turn your head to the side. It's a lot easier to breathe when you don't put your face down into some blankets. So in supported child's pose, which is what Jesse's in right now, we're releasing compression from the low back, And the postures, anytime we come into these back bending postures, we put a big load into that lumbar spine, and we want to release that load. There is enough that happens during our day to compress the discs in the lumbar spine, and this is a posture that can release the pressure in the lumbar spine. You can get into a supported child's pose anytime that you feel tight in the back or fatigue through your hips. Excellent way to release. All right, so that is our asanas, or our postures for today. Now we're going to come into our final posture, the most important posture in all of yoga, the Savasana. So press yourself up. And I'm going to slide these blankets out of the way, but we might use them for Jesse's Savasana. So Jesse, you're going to come onto your back. And when you come to your back first, keep your knees bent. And allow the floor to accept your body. Keeping the knees bent. We're going to check this out. So as I told you, Jesse works out, and he's got nice tight shoulders, which can sometimes cause the chin to stick up in the air. Well, this isn't a proper Shavasana. The chin and the forehead need to be level in a proper Shavasana. So I'm going to take a blanket and see if one blanket will bring that chin level. And then come back. That works pretty good. So we've got one blanket under his head making the chin level. This is working for his body. Now, other bodies might be different. You might need more blankets underneath the head to make yourself level. You just try it out and see, one blanket, two blankets. Now that we've allowed the low back to get comfortable, I'm going to let Jesse straighten his legs. And what happens for a lot of us when we straighten the legs is that the low back gets a little bit tight. So I think you're good, right? But we're going to use him as an example. If his low back had a hard time getting comfortable, we're going to put some more blankets underneath his knees. And this way we can pick the knees up a little, and that's going to angle the pelvis and make his low back more comfortable. So bring your knees all the way into your belly. Placing the blankets low on the back of the thighs but high on the knees, and making sure that your feet rest on the mat. So in a proper Shavasana, your head, your ears, and your shoulders, your hips and your heels are all on the same plane. And again, some of our body shapes and the way we're put together makes it a little challenging for the legs to be flat. So if it is challenging on your low back for flat legs, you just pick the knees up a little bit, making sure your supports are long enough to hold your legs as you allow your toes to then splay open. Bringing your palms up, your arms go about a foot and a half away from your hips. You give a gentle tuck to your chin so that you can get long in the neck, and then you melt. Melting into the shape of this posture. As I said, you let your toes splay open. You soften through the knees. Let your thighs release. Allow your belly to soften so that your navel will drop towards your spine as you exhale. Release your chest. You can imagine your heart lifting and your shoulders lowering, melting your shoulders down your arms until your palms feel like petals. Swallow, releasing through the throat, letting the skin on your cheeks go slack. Allow your tongue to rest gently in the back of your mouth, and release any conversation with yourself, and instead tune into observation of yourself, observing your breath as it moves through your body, observing your body as you continue to let go of any tension that might be building up, and observing your thoughts. Notice what thoughts you let go of. Remember, it's appropriate to sometimes just say shh to your head. And as you observe what thoughts you let go of, observe yourself bringing your mind back to your breath and back to your body. Savasana, also called corpse pose. This is the way the body will set the new cellular connections that you just taught it during your yoga practice. Now, we're going to bring Jessie out of Savasana and we'll close with the blessing. So gently deepening your breathing, wiggling your fingers and your toes, bring yourself back slowly. And then you can reach your arms up and stretch your fingers up away from your feet. Make space, get nice and long, stretch through your belly, and then release. Drawing your knees into your belly. Go ahead and roll to one side. Jesse's going to roll to his left. You can roll to your right, and then you make a pillow for your head with that free arm. And you pause here while your body transitions. Taking this moment to thank yourself for your practice. Inhale, and on the exhale, gently press yourself up. And go ahead and sit back on those blankets, and I'll sit on this one. And get yourself back into a comfortable seated posture. And let's go ahead and bring our hands to our heart. It's called the Anjali Mudra. Here in our part of the town, our part of the world, we call it prayer hands. Pressing your palms together, allowing your heart to lift, bow your head, and honor the truth, the light, the wisdom existing within every cell of your body. May you be peaceful. May you experience poise, equanimity, and abundance. May you be well. Namaste.